Thank you all for joining us today. What is today? March 6th for work session for Richmond Community Schools. Please join me by stating the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I have the reading of the mission statement, please?
Mission statement: Richmond Community Schools guide students on pathways of learning to a future of limitless possibilities.
In the vision statement. Sure, thank you.
Richmond Community Schools is a collaborative community nurturing mind, body, and spirit to prepare students for lives of choice, purpose, and service.
Great. So moving on, item 2, work session, student achievement. Dr. Ray.
President Pickering, trustees, I'm going to do something that I've never done before, so as to break the ice and warm up the podium for our amazing educators that will come up and truly set it ablaze. I'm going to come before you here at the podium, if you don't mind. Nevertheless, good afternoon, trustees, educators, and valued members of our school community out in TV land and those that are with us in the audience. Today, I stand before you with a deep sense of pride and gratitude as we reflect on the remarkable progress our students have made within the professional learning organization known as Richmond Community Schools. Across our corporation, we have witnessed significant gains in student achievement, gains that are not just reflected in test scores, but in the confidence, determination, and perseverance of our student learners. These successes are not accidental. They are a result of dedicated educators, supportive families, and most importantly, the resilience of our students. Resilience, as we know, is the power to rise after setbacks, to push forward when adversity presents itself, and to believe in the growth even when the path is truly difficult. Throughout the past few years, our students have demonstrated that power in extraordinary ways. Whether overcoming learning gaps, adapting to new expectations, or striving for excellence in the face of hardship, they have shown us what it is possible when we cultivate a culture of perseverance and support. As a PLO, our responsibility is to continue fostering this resilience by providing high-quality instruction, equitable outcomes, and the unwavering belief that every student can succeed. Let us now celebrate how far we've come while also keeping focus on how far we still have yet to go. Together with our commitment and shared vision, we will ensure that every student not only achieves, but thrives. I now would like to introduce to you Mr. Ryan Winter, who is the CEO of LinkedIn, a data mining firm that earlier this year generously allowed us to pilot their software for free for the entire 24-25 school season. Mr. Winter is virtually joining us, as you can see. However, his account director, Ms. Jamie Owencia, behind me, is here to support Mr. Winter's contribution. Following Mr. Winter's introductory contribution, we'll then hear from our progressive achievement. You will then hear about our progressive achievement from our educators throughout our PLO. Mr. Winter and Ms. Owencia will chime in from time to time to help connect various data points throughout the entirety of our presentation. Well, we as educators are data leaders, and we are. The fine folks at Lincoln are data experts. Mining data and crunching numbers to the infinite is what they do daily. And so with that said, I now give you Mr. Ryan Winter.
Thank you, Dr. Wright. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having Jamie and I here today. Very excited to be discussing your data. We certainly appreciate the opportunity. So just for context about what we're going to be going over today, we're going to be looking at 5 years worth of iLearn data in sort of your different subjects to provide a little bit of context about growth and achievement, and specifically how the district is performing to different peer groups. So before I go into some of the headlines and some of the charts, I do want to sort of just provide a little bit of vocabulary and some context about what are the different peer groups that we will be comparing you to. Excuse me. So on this page, what you will see is your school district here, and we have some basic information about the number of students and some of the percentages of the composition of your demographics, specifically program and race. But on the next row, we've identified group in what we call a decile band. So a decile band is 10 percentage points of districts in a similar economically disadvantaged group. So we can see there are 38 districts in your state who are between 60 and 70%. And why is that relevant to you? Because your economically disadvantaged percentage is 62%. And so one of the things that we strongly believe in, and I'm going to show you why on the next page, is the most relevant and appropriate peer group we believe to compare yourself to are districts of similar socioeconomics. However, we also want to show other comparisons as well. Your county, your regional service agency, and your statewide all LEAs in the state. And so you can see, for example, when I look at the state, that only 48% of students are economically disadvantaged, which is very different than your school district, which is very different than your peer group. And so one of the things that we've seen when really trying to best compare school districts is looking at school districts a few percentage points below and a few percentage points above is really the most relevant. And so we've dissected data looking at size of district, racial composition, grade configuration of schools. And what we have seen time and time again across all states is that socioeconomics are the number one indicator and predictor of student achievement. It's not the only one, but it is by far the largest contributor. And what I wanted to show you is that we did a 5-year research analysis of your state in ELA in the upper left-hand corner, math in the upper right-hand corner, science in the bottom left in green, and then orange is social studies. And this is a scatter plot graph, and a scatter plot looks at basically every district in your state. So these points signify each district or LEA in the state, including charters and vocational. And so what we plot is the percent of socioeconomics on the x-axis. So districts that have more or lower socioeconomics or poorer students basically are here on the far right. And if I look at here on the y-axis, we look at overall achievement as defined by proficiency on the I-Learn test. What you will notice is that these dots really sort of have a best fit line, okay? And that's what this sort of line is. But you'll notice they kind of hover around the mean. And so in statistics, there is a number called an R squared, which we calculate in each of these charts, which really measures the tightness of fit. Now, what you'll notice is there happen to be a lot of outliers in each of these charts. And if we were to remove these, your R squareds would go up. These outliers sometimes are the type of school districts, but by and large, what you do see here and what you see in every state that we've ever analyzed is that lower socioeconomics is correlated with lower achievement. And so when I look at that 62% area, which is kind of where your district lies, you can see basically of the districts to 60 to 70% that I referenced, this is those 38 districts I was referring to. And so we're going to talk about your district's placement in there. We're also going to look at the state. When I look at the state, remember they were 48% on average, very different group. And so it is always okay to compare to any peer group you so choose. But again, the ones that are closer to your socioeconomics are probably the most appropriate. And so what I wanted to do is really start the presentation with sort of the major headlines, and consistent with Dr. Wright's conclusions is that I think there is some major progress going on in your school district that I'm excited to sort of report. And so what we did is we looked at across the state what your overall percentile was 5 years ago, the year pre-pandemic, in 1819 across all 4 core subjects. And then to the right here, we look at where your percentile was last year in 23-24. And the takeaway is that in all 4 core subjects, there have been growth. The other thing that I'm going to show you, which is really the bulk of my presentation, is that ELA and math, which is often the biggest areas of focus, have had consistent improvement each year and across different grade bands. So these aren't 2 isolated data points that I'm cherry picking to tell a rosy story. There is momentum across your different grades and subjects, really in both ELA and math. And scientific studies had some nice growth as well, not to the same degree, but there has been growth. And so I am going to be looking at some trends to share with you that I think are worth celebrating. So here's language arts. As I mentioned, they've gone from the 2nd percentile in 2018-19 overall to the 10th percentile in the most recent year. So there was a nice jump last year, which is exciting. But in addition to sort of this percentile jump, we also have ranked school districts across your 4 bands. And one of the things that you'll notice is that in the overall state, there were 288 LEAs 5 years ago. Of those 288, you were ranked 282. Last year, there were 290 LEAs in our data set, of which your rank was 261. You will notice for the last 4 years, despite where achievement has gone, your ranking has improved every single year. And basically, you were 21 spots above in ELA where you were 5 years ago after growing each year. When I look at that peer group that I was mentioning that is closest to you, you were 35 out of 38 5 years ago, and you have jumped 6 places to 29 versus the 38 districts. So I just want to pause and see if anyone has any questions before I break down a little bit between the different grade levels.
I have a question.
Yep.
What's the advantage of comparing ourselves to our peer group? What do we do with that? Other than it makes our numbers look better.
I think the goal is to look at just relative performance to see how you're doing versus your peers. One of the things that we believe in is just the future and looking at growth. So are we making improvement or growth gains stronger than different peer groups or different, cohort populations? And I think what this is showing you is that relative to the districts in your similar socioeconomic group, your students are making more achievement on academic performance.
Mr. Wicker, would you also state that, I believe as I heard you say before, it's a little more apples to apples by looking at the peer groups. However, at the same time, and I believe in some of your later slides, and I know in our educator slides, we'll be looking at state data and how we also compare and compete with our state counterparts. But
how? I mean, if you're striving for state average, which is minimal, I don't see how striving for it. It seems like we've just moved the goalpost lower.
Can I say something? I teach educational psychology at IU East, and that's where my master's degree is, and it's something that we talk about in assessments is you want to have norm reference tests and you want to have criterion reference. Both of them are very valuable and give us insights. We have to look at both. I think it's good to know where we stand and good to know where we are. And I'm hoping that, and it seems like so far we're hearing both. It just gives us more information and more picture of where we need to be or where we're at compared to others. It helps us figure out are the tests being administered, quality tests, or where they need to be, but it also lets us know, that's what from my perspective, I want to hear kind of both types of information.
I'm just cautious that we don't. I mean, we have, bottom 10% is not something to write home about. and I appreciate the improvement. I know how hard people work. I know how our teachers work and how our building level staff work. But I think if when you say your bottom 10%, that's a much bigger red flag than saying we're half mid pack in our peer group. And so I'd rather personally, as at the board level, I'd rather have that red flag, that call to action, if you will, than say amongst this group of people we're mid pack, if that makes any sense. So
So just two comments I'll make is one of the benefits of all this data analysis is that you can look at your achievement through different lenses. You guys use the iReady assessment, which provides a national percentile, which is basically a very large cohort group. And so you have national percentiles. In this analysis, we use state percentiles. And then while we don't create local percentiles relative to your peer groups, I think to your point about where you are in the pack is important. And the point is you're climbing the pack. And so on the next page, or two slides, I'm going to show you some interesting stuff in terms of elementary, because in elementary, you're a lot more ahead of the pack, for example, than you are in middle school. So we'll dissect that a little bit. But this is looking at overall achievement for your district in terms of proficiency for the last 5 years in each subject. And you'll notice a couple of highlights. In grades 3 and 4, you've made consecutive growth each year. But I want to point you to the right-hand side of the page, which is, again, where we're comparing you versus the districts that are most like you and the overall state. And what you'll notice is in grades 3 and 4 is that you're outperforming your peer groups. Okay. The other conclusion that I will show you is that while starting in 5th grade, you do underperform your peer groups, you will notice that overall, over the last 5 years, you've narrowed that gap. So 5 years ago, you were basically 10 percentage points in terms of passing rates below your peers. And now you're only 2 points below. So you are catching up basically to your peer group. And I'll just note, I'll make 2 more observations that I think are worth celebrating. Is your district felt a lot less than every other cohort group basically during the pandemic. You'll notice that the state basically went down 7% year post-pandemic, and your peer group went down 9%. You only went down 2%. You've also recovered at a faster rate. And so what you'll notice is that you're at 25% passing, which is what you were pre-pandemic. When I look at the state, when I look at the state is 7 percentage points below where they were pre-pandemic, and your peer group was 8 percentage points below as of last year. So relative to every other group, relative to the pandemic, you basically had gotten back to where you are. And one thing I think is also worth just sort of identifying, in 4th grade, starting 2 years ago, you started to outperform your pre-pandemic average. And now you're at 35% in 4th grade. That's 8 percentage points higher than your pre-pandemic average. And that 35% is really sort of, that difference is higher than any of the other demographic groups. Relative to the state, you were 23 points below the state 5 years ago. Now you're only 16.
And Mr. Winter, if I may interject, just to that point, I know that when we had conversation, and of course, our teams have been scouring through the data and arriving at these same discoveries. I know that one of the things you mentioned is that thus is what allowed you to join us today. Is because of some of the percentage points that you've seen compared to other corporations you've worked in. There have been some significant and tremendous growth. And I think to Mr. Weber's point, or Board Member Weber's point, and it's a great point that he makes, and we all keep our funnel focus on it. I think it's also important to confirm that what we are and have been doing is also working.
Absolutely. And this next slide to me is worth illustrating because I think your point, about, the bottom 10% not being sort of where you want to be, I think it's important to unpack your growth, dissect it. Where is growth happening and where is it not? And I want to show you grade 3 through 5 and 6 through 8 because I think grade through 5, what I see here is pretty awesome in my opinion. You can see grade 3 was 7th percentile 5 years ago. And look at this line up to 33%. It grew 13 percentile points last year. 4th grade, 5th percentile, grew to 35th percentile. Again, a huge jump over last year, and certainly a huge jump versus 5 years ago. 5th grade, big jump up from last year, still a lot lower than 3rd and 4th grade, but overall an improvement. And so I'm not trying to paint a rosy picture that growth is happening every place in the same degree, but it is happening in each of the grade levels. And this jump in elementary language arts is happening consistently and significantly in the most recent school year. That momentum is tough to replicate, and I imagine it will continue. When I look at middle school, the story isn't as great. What you can see here is that the percentile in middle school is lower. So overall, we were in the 1st percentile basically 5 years ago. It has jumped up to the 5th percentile after sort of dropping sort of a couple of years ago. My biggest concern about middle school in both ELA and math is 8th grade. 8th grade is just the one area I will point out where I do see some downwards performance. 7th grade had a nice jump last year. 6th grade is also similar to 5th grade at its all-time high. Middle school, we've seen around the country be very difficult for students during that transitionary period. So, it's just something worth noting. When I look at the rankings, though, that I think are pretty interesting in elementary, and I did want to just point this out, we were 276 out of 286 5 years ago, but we jumped 41 spots over the last 5 years to 235. Relative to your peer groups, and this goes to the gentleman's comment about being in the middle of the pack, you are pretty much now almost in the middle of the pack in elementary. So if you remember overall, you climbed 6 spots, but if I look at elementary, we went from 34 out of 37 to now 21 out of 27. So, that is almost the middle of the pack in elementary. When you look at math, actually, one of the things that's interesting about your data is your math data is actually very similar to your ELA data. So a lot of congruence there, but you went from the 3rd to the 10th percentile, which is great. Your overall state ranking improved 20 spots. You went from 281 to 261. When I look at your closest peer group, you climbed 5 spots. So almost identical. You climbed 6 spots in ELA, 5 spots in math. When I look at your math data overall, you're only 2 or 3 percentage points below the pandemic. When I look at your closest peer group, 10% below the pre-pandemic average. When I look at the state, 7 percentage points below. Again, similar to ELA, you guys fell less during the pandemic. That was the key. You also recovered better. So both things working in your favor. You can see both the state and your peer group fell more than 10%. When I look at math from a percentile of grade 3 through 5 versus 6 through 8, the good news is overall we've gone from 5 to 14 to the 14th percentile. So not the same as ELA, but again, still growth in a positive direction. You can see 3rd and 4th grade, doing pretty good. 3rd grade has had a big jump versus 5 years ago, whereas 4th grade's kind of maintains a similar level. 5th grade has had 2 years of sort of a big jump from 3 years ago. In middle school, 6th grade had a big jump last year. It's all-time high. Seventh grade had a nice jump, again at its all-time high. Eighth grade is again my big concern in both ELA and math, went down, but overall it went up 5 percentile points in math. And then in science and social studies, and then that sort of concludes my presentation. We are higher than where we are 5 percentile points. We're in the low teens. It hasn't grown much. You can see there is strength in fourth grade in biology relative to sixth grade. And in social studies, we see sort of the low teens. And so now all of your subjects are kind of in the 10 to 15 percentile range. Again, much higher than where we were 5 years ago. So that concludes my presentation. I'm going to pause and just see if anyone has comments or questions for me.
I have a question.
Yep.
Looking at the eighth grade data for language arts and math, and it's such a huge increase in 2020 and 2021. So to me, a direct correlation is online learning, and eighth graders may benefit more from a different learning style. That could be an assumption, but to see it jump that high and then immediately plummet again once kids were back at school, to me, I'd want to dig in of what were we doing for our eighth grade kids then, because we were doing something right during COVID for eighth graders. So what was that? Did they like it better? Is it? That's just my assumption on that, but that's something I'd like us to,
Do you have any thoughts as far as what to attribute it to?
And great emphasis to draw on. I know that during COVID, measures of accountability were not as virtually, were not as what they currently are in person and were pre-COVID. However, we also know that following COVID, there was, and I'm sure Mr. Winter, and I know that was still leading thunder from the school, but I know that as students were transitioning back in, relearning the ideal of being a student and applying oneself was a challenge. But definitely an we'll look into.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, I think it equates to the corporate world too. I could never go back to an office,
Yeah.
right? I'm so much more productive since COVID, and the world has sort of had to change, and I think this education it's been harder, obviously, because to get people back in. But
so as Mr. Winter transitions away, I think one of the things that he shared, and one of the things that I know that is going to be highlighted later on, but as our elementary data continues to improve, we can almost anticipate and expect that secondary data is going to continue to improve with the systemic alignment structures that we have in place. Again, we'll continue to see that vertical articulation of success. And so,
that's one thing. But to that same point, I'm also curious as to the break, like digging into that, or I'm sure it's been dug into, but what building students are at. We have students at multiple buildings, and is that a play in here? Like, how does that break down? Is there a clear, or is it all eighth graders? I'd be interested in that data.
we also, again, this is something, the data that we all been scouring over, and I know that our building leaders have been discussing with their own faculty staff. There are discoveries that we've made. This really confirms, and going back to what Ms. Bruckner alluded to earlier, this confirms some of the facts that we know. They're at our middle school level. We all acknowledged there's been a challenge in more ways than one. However, with systemic alignment, with sustainability, with leadership, along with teachers, we also know that our faculty and staff that they're at Dennis are continuing to receive the utmost of support when it comes to instruction, which is the true control that we have overall that we do with student achievement. So there's definitely some areas that we have to continue to improve upon for sure. Mr. Winter, I'm sorry.
I had a question. I think that observation about eighth grade in 2020-21 is a very insightful one. Just curious about whether testing that year was mandatory. I know I'm just looking at statewide trends in Indiana here on test participation, and I saw that numbers were a lot lower from basically 2018-19 school year. One of the things that we did see in that 2021 school year's PSAT and SAT scores went up significantly the year after the pandemic. And the reason wasn't really, and again, I'm speculating here, and this may not be a reason, but if it wasn't mandatory to take the test, what we did find is your higher achieving students did take the test and lower achieving students did not. And so there may just be a population in those results that year.
And Mr. Winter, our high school principal is shaking her head to confirm. And as we know, during that time, there was a lot of grace that was extended in more ways than one. But it's definitely an inference we're going to investigate and look into and find some answers and get to the bottom of it for sure.
And I, could definitely assume that. I just don't want to write off
Something that will
other,
No,
something else that may that helps.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a very interesting observation. I think it'll be interesting to also look at other data like behavior and attendance data in the following years, because I think to your point, the socialization aspect of being in school, we know certainly impacts achievement. And if there's less trouble you can get in at home, achievement has the opportunity to go up. So that was a very thoughtful reason.
Mr. Winter, that's a great segue into the next phase of our presentation. That brings us to our assistant superintendents, Mrs. Margaret Elementary and Mr. Pritchard Secondary. Ladies, lady and gentlemen.
I'm sorry. Allowed to ask questions now, or should they wait until the end of that public commentary?
Yes, with public commentary, that'd be great if they can take no paper. Yeah. Just so that we can try and stay as efficient and effective with the presentation, but we definitely will open up at the end this year's public commentary. Mr. Pritchard, Mrs. Margaret.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Well, that was kind of meant to give you the historical perspective, of how things have and the upward trajectory for the district. And so now these next couple of slides, Mrs. Mark and I will share will sort of narrow us down, because what you're going to hear is current actionable kinds of things that are happening from our building leaders. And so just as a reminder, as they come forward about our instruction in our buildings, and Mrs. Marker and I are kind of in charge of that. Tier 1 systemic alignment is a tenet of the corporation. And so we have a new reading curriculum as a reminder that's been underway in K through 8. Wit and Wisdom, the instructional coaches and Mrs. Kirk, who's with us today, has been working hard to get that implemented, to keep that ELA momentum that you saw happening this year. We also have a new science curriculum through Savas. It used to be Pearson, for those of you who remember. But that is in place now for K through 8. And then the Ready Math curriculum has also been in place. This is year 3 for that curriculum. So as you see the numbers coming, it'll kind of have some perspective for you. But that math curriculum has in place, been here for 3 years with the exception of logos. It uses the CPM program, which that's aligned with the high school, in the high school freshman algebra classes. They use that CPM program. So that's in the logos.
And another piece of our systemic alignment is our partnership with NIET. And so we've been aligned K through 12 with our partnership and our on-site coaching, working with our building level leaders, our instructional coaches, our mentor teachers, implementing structures in place such as cluster and ILT, district ILT, and then ALT team meetings have also been an intricate part of our increase in our data that we just were shared, the presentation that was just shared with us. In addition to, we talked about social emotional learning, the impact of COVID on our learners. And so being in year 2 and phase 2 with the board support of TBRI. You will hear from our amazing building leaders and presenters and teachers and coaches about how the impact of TBRI has made on not only the social emotional support of our students, behavior data, attendance, and also academic data as well. And we wouldn't be remiss without sharing also just the resilience of our entire school community. We know the hard work that all of our teachers put in every single day, our support staff, our building administrators, and we are incredibly proud of everything that they're doing with all of our initiatives that we've implemented this school year and in school years past. And so we wanted to make sure that we said a big thank you to them.
And thank you to our Board of Education and those boards before you over the past few years that have continued to provide unwavering support and encouragement along the way. Absolutely.
I have a question on the NIET. I believe the thought was that would be their footprint in our district would be reduced. It doesn't seem like that has happened. Is there new thinking, or what direction do we see with an IET?
Absolutely, and just as was the initial ideal in IET this year, still continues to have a very effective impact on our classrooms. However, as we move into the next phase of their support, it will be more toward the administrative side of what they have to offer, so that we as building up leaders and instructional leaders continue to flourish and continue to improve upon our craft as we move down the road. But yes, of what we experienced a few years back, we've definitely gotten down the road, and as Mrs. Margaret alluded to, and as our brilliant educators will also partly, there has been a mindset shift and a shift instructionally in how it is that we are we're making and creating our own way. And so, yes, to your question, Mr. Weber, as we come out of this school season, as we move into next school season, their footprint will be a lot less within our classrooms, and more so continue to be supportive of we in the administrative side.
Not to belabor the issue, could we have a narrative summary of an IET current and how we see going forward, like maybe in the next update? Would that be possible?
Sure.
To know what it might look like because I don't really know what an administrative NIT looks like versus a coaching NIT.
Sure.
And if we could just have a half a page or a page, that would be helpful.
We'll definitely do that. And just to a quick answer, and some of our principals in the room can attest. I believe it was 2 summers ago. We went through the NIET Principal Standards rubric training, so as to continue to familiarize ourselves with how best to serve and support those students with the framework. Teachers with the framework as they are navigating through. So, Mr. Pritchard, Mrs. Margaret, thank you so much. I think we now move with Mr. Service and Mr. Hughes. Come on down. Welcome.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm with my coach, Rebecca Lefuse, that we're going to present some of our current with you. So we thought we'd share our school goals with you. So if you see on the screen, you'll look at our IREACH school goals and our island goals. Now you look at those percentages and you say, oh, 30%, 50%, 25%, 35%. Those are low because we wanted to make attainable goals. Before our goals were like 75% of our students would pass, but that wasn't realistic. We looked at our data and dug in and met with our school improvement team and came up with these goals and made it more realistic. So hoping to show growth in small increments so our teachers and our staff and our kids can see the growth that we're making. So that's the reason on those percentages for our goals. So this is our iReady reading data. And I know those numbers are really, really small. They are right there. So if you look at the red, those are there are 3 or more grade levels behind. So if you look at that bottom number that's in parentheses, that's where we started at the beginning of the year. And then that bold number tells you how many students we have in that area now. So if you look, we went from 18 students, 3 or more grade levels below to 14. We went from 32 students to 20 students, 2 grade levels below. We went from 140 students to 101 students, 1 grade level below. And then 23 students to 60 students that are early on grade level. And then 9 students to 29 students mid or above grade level. So you can see with iReady, our students are making progress, which is what we want to see. And then our iReady reading typical growth from August to December. Our goal is where you want your kids to be like at the mid-year is like 50% in typical growth. And our kids in reading are at 55. So they're a little bit above of where they should be right now. So that's good news. So, and then our iReady math data. In that 3 grade levels or more, we went from 48 students to 18. That's huge. We went from 151 students to 149 students, 1 grade level or below. We went from 10 students to 35 students early on grade level, and 0 students to 13 students mid or above grade level. So we can see that, our students are making growth in reading. And then the iReady math typical growth from August to December, in reading we were at 55 and now we're at 56. So our students are on target for hoping to move more kids to be on grade level in reading and math according to iReady. Then our growth data for DIBELS, that's K through second grade. So you can see where we were at the beginning of the year, from the blue to the green, yellow, and red. And then you look at middle of the year, so you see that red getting smaller. And this is our first year using DIBELS in K through second grade. And then where are we now? So I'm going to let Mrs. LaFuse talk about where are we now.
So obviously she shared all the numbers, but we all know there's a lot of hard work that goes into getting those numbers. So I want to celebrate and share some of the things that we're doing. Wit and Wisdom is an amazing program, but it's taken a lot of time and we're continuing to learn and develop. And we know that that won't stop after this year. So we will continue to implement that with integrity, meaning that we need to stick with it. We need to stick with how the program is written and make sure that we're meeting the needs of our students with what we're given. So we do weekly meetings with the coaches, the coach, myself, Miss Van Middlesworth, who is our literacy cadre coach, and Mrs. Service as well, to help support them with their Wit and Wisdom, but also with all of their planning. So we've implemented those. Those happen weekly. So we attend all the K4 planning meetings. We have clusters. Clusters are an important part of our growth, and we have started implementing follow-ups. So whatever we're focusing on for that cycle, that is broken down throughout a 6 to 9 or 10 week cycle, supporting the development of that cycle. And I'm going in and I'm following up with looking at and targeting those specific needs. It's very different from when Mrs. Service goes in because I'm not the evaluator. I'm your coach. So I'm there to help you with best practices, to work things through with you, to celebrate successes, and also to brainstorm with you. And then our ILT has started implementing our field testing. Our ILT meets every Monday after school. We would love to have anybody there that wants to learn more about ILT and the hard work that we use to help drive growth in our buildings. But the field testing has been a big part of our year. We're able to evaluate, reflect, and make shifts before we deliver it to the staff. Our current cycle, we really targeted the use of DIBELS and GEODS, which GEODS is a separate part of Wit and Wisdom. So Wit and Wisdom is the reading. The foundations is going to be that phonics. And then the GEODS is then for K2 and implementing that background knowledge and putting all the pieces together during that success time. And it's when you think of phonological and phonemic awareness, that's a big umbrella. And we were able to really narrow down specifically how we wanted to target, because the idea of cluster is to not give more work to teachers. It's to embed it with what they're already doing. So those are some things that have helped us get to where we are now. But we have a long way to go, and we know that. So we are continuing to work to create that environment that promotes critical thinking in the classroom, because we're all learners. Everybody in that building, from the administrator to Paris to the custodian to the students. We want to continue to foster that critical thinking. We know that's important. We want to continue to promote teamwork and self-reflection, because we know that we have to own what we do. We have to reflect to continue to get better. And obviously, we want to implement best practices. We will continue to implement our 5 new programs of Wit and Wisdom, Foundations, GEODS, TBRI, and Sabbaths, because we know those are going to help us meet our goals. We know those programs are important to student success. And we're going to be spending time in the last cluster cycle revisiting Ready Math and going over those instructions and looking at opportunities for growth within math. And then we're going to continue to stay committed as an ILT to use data plus the NIET framework to provide the best quality professional development, because we know our kids deserve it.
And with that, again, as we alluded to, and for our board, the data points that we're referencing in the schools are referencing the same data points that we presented to you all last year. This is just a little more fun focused per school that's presenting. At the elementary level, I know Mrs. Markwood can allude to it, and I see him in the back. He's trying to hide out. But the principal of our most recently identified Blue Ribbon Elementary School, Mr. Jones, I believe could also weigh in, and I know Mrs. Markwood and Ms. Service and Ms. LaFuse could share that across the corporation, elementary schools have been seeing very similar growth, and in some areas they've seen even more. And so again, we definitely are excited as to not only where Fairview is going, and again, as we know, not long ago, Fairview had some other challenges, and I think Mr. Winter in his initial presentation alluded to where things were pre-COVID and where they are now. And I know Mrs. Service and with Mrs. LaFuse and Mrs. Eisenbargers, and of course the Cynthia Kirk, who's district-wide, have been really working hard, and the faculty and staff have been really working hard there at Fairview to not only maintain but also continue to build upon that momentum. So we appreciate you all. And at this point, if there are no questions, we'll transition into our next.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Great job. Great job. Mrs. Brazel from Test Intermediate School.
Johnny. How are you guys?
Welcome. Welcome.
Okay. So I just.
Sorry about that. I just noticed.
He gets a little anxious.
Fine. So I just pulled some of our iReady data. I figured you're hearing from many, many schools. This is very big picture for Test, where we are. I'm celebrating my 16th month as the principal at Test. So I was very excited when I hit my 1-year mark, because now things don't surprise me anymore. I've seen the full school year, which is a really big deal. So in reading, you can see that we showed really good growth in the 6th grade, and we did not show really good growth in the 5th grade. So that's something that we've talked about. We are in year 1 of Wit and Wisdom. So is this an implementation dip? Is this part of the transition that you saw a dip in the historical data of the district from 4th to 5th grade? So we know that transition is big for kids. So that is something that we have talked about as a team, because we are not excited that our median growth there is 25% in the 5th grade, but it is significantly higher. It's 87% in the 6th grade on the iReady reading test. In math, our 2 grade, so here's the placement level. So to John's earlier point about, are we on grade level, right? So like we can feel good about growing, but if we're still behind, like we need to know that, right? So this is where the grade level placement shows you that. So you can see there's the August is at the top, and then December, so beginning of year to mid-year. You can see that 6th grade, we see the green increases, and in 5th grade, it pretty much stays the same, right? So that's how the grade level placement looks for the population of students at Test right now. So then when you go to math, we're showing better results in math. We showed good growth in both 5th and 6th grade. So in 3 of our 4 metrics, we showed good growth, and we're real proud of that. We are still looking at that reading in 5th grade. So you can see there we are on target to meet our goals. So that progress bar right there, that's the median number. So as long as a kid is 50% of the way to their goal from August to December, they're on target to meet it. So we actually have more of our kids than more than half our school is on target to meet their growth goal. And so then here's the placement in math. So you can see from August to December, there's notably more green when you look at 5th grade and 6th grade. We're moving kids up levels according to the iReady math test. So that's the big picture data. Another way to look at that is this graph, which I like. So the bottom of it is the performance, and then the vertical is the growth. And so of those 4 quadrants, we are right now in low performance, but 3 of our 4 measures we're in high growth, right? So in a perfect world, we're going to get over into that high performance area. And really the best place to be is if you're on the quadrant on the upper right, where you're high performance and high growth. Okay, we're not at the high performance yet. What we can control is that we're making sure that we're growing. Then the last thing that I pulled, because I didn't know what data I was supposed to be putting. So here's some discipline data, which is maybe off topic. I don't know.
That's great.
So right now we are struggling with a lot of referrals at tests. I would say overall our referrals are not down, but the good news, and that's kind of what I highlighted on there, is that the referrals for major behaviors, physical aggression is down, fighting is down, tobacco is down. A lot of those major incidents that kids go home with and then talk about, those are down. Our day-to-day, like disruption, defiance, we are still working really hard on that. And so you can see that triangle data report. The green is the number of kids with 0 to 1 referrals. So you've got a pretty good chunk of your school that has 0 to 1 referrals, but we haven't really made a lot of progress. We're kind of holding steady with how many kids are in those green, yellow, and red bands. But the type of referrals that we're getting a lot of, that is a place where I feel like we can see some significant improvement. And that's all I got.
And Mrs. Brazel, to your point, again, and we talked about it, and Mrs. Marquardt and Mr. Pritchard alluded to the TBRI. And of course, our board has heard me reference in nauseam the visionary perspective as far as quality general instruction, systemic alignment, and social emotional supports of the TBRI interventions. Would it be safe to infer that of those, as you referenced, major violations that TBRI is, and I know that at Test Intermediate a few years back, we had a brief investment with the initiative with your homes, your houses, yes,
Get your teacher on
absolutely.
the house.
So there's been some intentional focus on the culture and climate and making sure that students understand from a social emotional standpoint that, hey, you got to come to school ready. And would you attest that those things are still continuing to?
I mean, I hope so. I really hope so, that all the work that we've put into building relationships and connections with kids then gives them the idea that, okay, I don't do that at school.
Yes.
Right? I don't do that at school.
Yes. And most importantly, to your point, tests become that much safer. When you dial down such aggression, it becomes that much safer.
Yeah.
Questions for Mrs. Brazel before we move on? Thank you, Mrs. Brazel. We now bring up the Indiana Association of School Principals Teacher of the Year. I'm sorry, Principal of the Year, Ms. Crystal Cooper from Dennis Middle School.
Hi, Crystal Cooper. So this is my third year as the principal here at Dennis. So we're going to kind of run through some of the stuff that we've seen improvement on since I started here as principal. But I do want to start on our goals. So just so you have an idea of what our actual school goals are for the year, we did decide to focus on growth. Many of our kids are coming in to the school very low on the placement realm. So we are focusing on growth within the building and trying to move that scale right now to eventually get us to the proficient scale. But right now we are focused on growth, so 10% average for our English learners and our math, 10%, but then also throwing in behavioral, because if many of you remember, Dennis is a school when I came into it that maybe had a few behavior issues that we needed to work on. So we have decided to focus this year on our special education population specifically and lower those behavior referrals that are coming in, because ultimately we want those students to remain and be productive in their classrooms as well. So these are our three growths. So looking at math growth, and this is more iReady math growth from our fall, which was August, to our winter in December. We did have 20% of our 7th graders and 28% of our 8th graders demonstrate a full year's growth between that time. Looking at our stretch growth. So really we want to focus on our stretch growth, because if we are just growing kids 1 year, they are always going to be behind the rest of their peers. So our stretch growth is really what we're focusing on. We did have 7% of our 7th grade and 8% of our 8th graders achieve the stretch growth between August and December. We have, due to maybe lowering our discipline problems that we have had in the building, we've been able to bring in iReady specific professional development to build the capacity of our teachers to teach the iReady math, because we believe our students are at a place in the classroom, our classroom management is at a place in our classroom where we can focus on some instruction, and classroom management behaviors is not a detriment to the learning that's happening in the building. So that is our math. English, 32% of our 7th grade and 42% of our 8th graders have demonstrated a year's growth. And this is with wit and wisdom, which is new, the same for us. So it is a learning curve this year for our teachers to switch into a more structured English curriculum, which many of them have embraced. So they didn't at first, I'll be very honest. But more and more of them are kind of getting on board of like, you know what, I am seeing the growth within the classrooms out of our students with the structured curriculum. It is working for us. And then stretch growth, 12% of our 7th graders and 17% of our 8th graders are demonstrating that stretch growth. And again, this is with the brand new curriculum of wit and wisdom. Discipline. So it's always going to be up there right now. Hopefully one day we'll get there. We won't have a whole bunch of discipline happening in the building, but it is still here. So my first year, which was the 22-23 school year, in the first semester, we had 631 referrals. That's a lot. This year, we are down to 332. So we have cut that almost in half. Still a lot. Don't get me wrong. I understand 332 referrals. Trust us. We feel it. It is a lot. But I am systematically, if you look through the years, our discipline data is getting better, and better. But we are still sitting at 332 referrals. That is classroom, hallway, lunchroom. I will say our fights have dropped significantly. From when I first came in, it was a weekly. Now we go stretches and then jinx ourselves because we're like, man, I've not a fight in a while. And then what happens? But we try not to do that now. But our major disruptions are on a downhill trend. A lot of this is still coming from just goofiness. They're 13 and 14-year-olds. They're going to be goofy. They're going to be, hey, let's roughhouse and play. Turns into a fight. Trying to explain that to 13 and 14-year-old boys can be challenging because they don't quite get that piece. But we are seeing some of that behavior still continue, but we are working on improving that.
Before you move on, I apologize to interject, but to Mr. Weber's point, while again, 332 is still not where we want to be. Mm-hmm. 2 years ago, you were almost 300 referral cases more than where you are now. Mm-hmm. And that again, just from
and the year prior to that, I think we had almost 1,800 referrals for the year.
Yes.
To put that in perspective, it was a lot when I first got here. And then we dropped it to, I think we were sitting at maybe 12. And then we sat at between like 750, 775 is where we were last year. So we're hoping that just continues to drop as we are going from year to year to year. Procedures are put in place. Kids are not allowed to move as freely as they once were. They may not like it, but I know our teachers do, and it puts a lot more structure within the day, which has helped.
That much safer.
And it's safer.
Than it was previously.
Very much so. And that gets into my next, which is our attendance rates. So again, in the 2022 school year, our attendance rate for the year was only 42.3%. It's really low. My first year, it was 54.5. And then last year, we jumped up to 75% attendance rate. And I think that goes back to what Dr. Wright was saying. Our students are feeling like this is a safer environment for them to come to school. It's a place they want to come. They've built those relationships with the teachers. And I hand that all to my teachers and what they have done to want our kids to come to school to learn. Ultimately, that is why they are here. And if I can get the kids in the door and stay in the door, I can teach them. So I'm very proud of our attendance rate.
Cooper, just for those in TV land, the photograph there, can you explain exactly what that is?
we won the first official attendance trophy last year because our attendance was so great last year that we did win the very first attendance trophy. And trust me, when it was announced in Civic Hall, I think we all went a little crazy. Like, what? You're talking about Dennis? What? So we were very proud of it. So we took many pictures and posted it. So
the entire corporation went crazy that year.
Yes.
Yeah, no doubt.
So that is all I have.
You got one more?
Do I know homework?
You're good.
Oh, yes.
Kind of talking about
What we are doing. There you go. So English teachers are participating in ongoing professional development. Wit and Wisdom, we've been very lucky to have, I think this Friday is our 4th time that Wit and Wisdom has come in to help build the capacity of our teachers this year. This time, our teachers are going and visiting each other. And they've got a very structured plan of what they're going to be looking at when they are watching their peers teach Wit and Wisdom and the different styles in which it is being taught, which I think is going to be very beneficial to our teachers because it allows them to watch their peers, not just to go in and sit in the back of the room, but it is this is what we're looking for. What did you think? It's a reflection piece afterwards. So I'm very impressed with the Wit and Wisdom staff that we have coming in and working with us. They've also done a day of professional development where they have trained the administration staff on what to look for when we go in. What does good teaching look like with Wit and Wisdom? So they did come in and do a day of professional development for the admin team. And I know Mr. Pritchard was there as well. Ms. Markford was there. And Cynthia Kirk, she's still here somewhere. She came as well. But that was very beneficial for us. So we know what does good teaching, where can we help the teachers improve and build their capacity without Wit and Wisdom professionals with us. So that was very helpful. Same with math. We've been very, very fortunate to have iReady come in. They came in Monday of this week as well and did another full day of professional development for our teachers on how to teach iReady with fidelity and with rigor within the classroom. Our NIET focus for this past week has been grouping. So outside of the professional development, we are still doing our clusters and NRIT or in-house professional development with our teachers to continue to build their capacity on the daily of how do you group students? Because I think that was lost somewhere along the line of COVID. We got so used to, we're going to sit behind our desks. Nobody can come up to my desk. And the art of grouping got lost, especially at the middle school level, because it is an art. How do you let them loop without completely losing control of the classroom? So we've been focused on that to try and get some more hands-on grouping within the classroom instead of just sit and get. So we've been really focused on that as well. But now I think that's my last slide.
I have a question though.
Yeah.
So was it last year, 18 months ago, did we go to team teaching?
We did. We also went to team teaching.
And we're still doing that.
Correct.
Can you expound? I mean, it's been 18 months, so it's been a while, but it seems like that was a big change that structurally, I'm guessing, has a lot to do with some of your positive performance.
Yes, that was a very large change. Many of you may not remember, I did move 25 teachers over that summer. It was a lot. We were very silo based when I first got there. Teachers didn't really interact with each other. They were on both floors, both grade levels. I mean, it was everywhere. And as a union, we all got together. We decided this would be, they'd never done it before, and many of the teachers there. We got together, came up with a master schedule, and moved 25 teachers to go into the teaming model. And I think that directly has impacted my discipline levels, because now it's a classroom or a school within a school almost feeling, because they have their own team names, they have their own identities. It's easier to do field trips because you're only having to deal with the same 120 kids than, well, I'm pulling out of this class and I'm pulling out of this class. And it just created a different environment. We also separated 7th grade from 8th grade. 8th grade shall never be in the 7th grade hallway, and the 7th grade shall never be in the 8th grade. And if I see you, I'm like, are you an 8th grader? Yeah, get back into your hallway. So that helped very much structurally in the building. And again, I think that goes back to the attendance rates as well, because it created a family feel. I'm on the same team as you, and I get to know you. And then the teams are mixed as they move into 8th grade. So it's not, You have a team in 7th grade, that exact team goes into 8th. It's a whole mixture up again. So you still get that. I get to meet new people and be on different teams in 8th grade versus 7th grade. So yes, we did do that. And I think my teachers this year are like, we're not changing that, right? We're staying with it. I'm like, to the best of my knowledge, we are not changing it. Because they do like it.
That's a great point. That's a great
It's encouraging to hear that because I know those of us who were on the board at the time were excited about the possibility, and to see it implemented then with success is exciting for us.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So we also split the electives. So electives are 7th grade electives, and these electives are 8th grade, which has allowed us to also bring in a lot of the high school credited courses at Dennis. We now have intro to business, PCC, journalism, and then algebra in our math class. But it's allowed us, because we've separated them so completely, to do some of the higher level electives in our grade level.
And to that point, and before you take a seat, as we talked about the professional learning organization corporation wide within our professional learning communities, our schools, that same sense of systemic alignment and structure will continue to pay off. And as I referenced, and as Mr. Winter referenced in his presentation, as we continue to see that data growing at the elementary level, as those successful elementary students enter test intermediate, they're structurally sound, infrastructurally, academically sound, and Dennis we'll continue to see that growth, so as to when they enter as freshmen at RHS, they're at their very best, which is our goal.
Yeah. And going back to the gentleman that was doing the data before, those 3rd graders, they're now my 8th graders. Yes. So where I still have some of those kiddos in their fundamental group of 3rd and 4th grade, they're still in my building. Those are my 7th and 8th graders that I currently have in my building.
That did not receive the same 3rd and 4th experience they're receiving now.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Ms. Cooper.
You're very welcome.
And as Ms. Cooper takes her seat and we hear from Red Devils Richmond High School, I just simply want to reiterate some of the things that also have been brought up, because it's PLO best practice language. You're hearing cluster, you're hearing IoT, and that's all in IT. But again, as we know, and I'm sure that they're going to continue to allude to, where we have the most control is curriculum and instruction and what happens in the classroom. And so, Ms. Wolpe, Ms. Johnson, ladies, well, thank you for being here. And what yours?
Thank you. I want to introduce my data coach. We spent a lot of time together in the data room at Richmond High School, Celeste Johnson. So we couldn't do what we do as far as looking at data without Celeste. So, all right, what data do we use at RHS? Well, at the high school level, we get a report card. It's called the Federal Accountability Report Card. And that report card has indicators on it. And as you can see, these are the 6 indicators. Of note, the graduation rate is the highest weight. 4 points are the math academic achievement, and ELA are both 2 points. So that will come up in our presentation as to our focus. The ELA and the math achievement is taken from the SAT. Every junior in every high school in Indiana has to take the SAT exam. In fact, Thursday, March the 12th. Wednesday. Next Wednesday, every junior will be taking the SAT. And what we do with the SAT, we now do what is called the PSAT in 9th grade. We do the PSAT 10. And in October of every year, our 9th, our 10th, and our 11th graders all take the PSAT. It is like, almost the entire school. It gives us really, really important data so we can catch them as 9th graders, take that data and see, okay, where are our kids weakest? Where are their strengths? And then we take that after we disaggregate the data, we then input that into our professional development. So because of the SAT, the state has gone from ECAs to ISTEP at the high school level to now the SAT. So they keep changing the game, and we feel like we've got a good grasp now with the PSA where it can be consistent. The I-STEP, it was like, oh no, you can't look at any of the questions, you can't know how you did. But the PSAT from the College Board, we get all kinds of information from that. All right, our federal accountability report card, and this is 3-year trend data from since they have done the federal accountability report card. In red is 21-22, blues 22-23, and then the green is 23-24. And as you can see in ELA, we have grown, and what we have put on the chart are the points that we are given on our report card. All right, so those are points. We have shown growth in ELA in the past 3 years. Our math achievement is going up, but it's slow. Math is, I believe, across the district. Math is a struggle. We have kids that come and say, well, I can't do math, but that's okay because my mom said that she can't do math either. Well, yes, you can. So a lot of it is just convincing students that, yes, you can do this. Graduation rate points is one of our strongest categories. Obviously, it is worth 4 points. It's worth twice as many points on our grade report than any of the other indicators. Strength of diploma, you'll see that data disaggregated here in a minute, but right now we have 4 diplomas. You can get a general diploma, you can get a 440 diploma, you can get an academic honors, or you can get a technical honors. That is changing with the incoming 9th graders because we have a whole new diploma. Our progress in achieving English language learners, as you can see, we struggle there. But we are so appreciative to the district because we noted that last year. Our Hispanic population doubled, went up 200%. And so we were given another English language learner teacher that started this year who do push in to our classes. We have so many students that speak 0 English. And so that has really helped us. So we're anxious to see if that will help in our growth. Chronic absenteeism is an issue across the country. Every principal that I talk to, I have a principals group, everybody's fighting absenteeism. I believe even employers are. I could work from home, and so why do I have to come in to work? You'll see later again what we are doing. So our overall points, we are in, and again, you'll see on our slides, but we are improving in our overall points. If we had, and I keep saying, if we had not gone down in absenteeism, we would have had 15 more points. And anyway, we didn't. So, but our attendance is improving. The bottom right there shows that last year we were at 90.42%. Within the beginning of school up to, I think, first semester. This year it is 93.6%. I have to give kudos to my assistant principal, Stephanie Baker, our attendance liaison, Matt Fisher, who kiddingly tell us they know every pit bull in Richmond and every door that they better not go in and knock on, or a gate that they better go through when they're finding out why Ray's not coming to school. So not only do we do home visits, we have what are called AIM, attendance intervention meetings. That is a meeting where I have gotten to the point where my attendance is not it is not good at all. And that includes the parent, that includes the counselor, it includes an administrator, our attendance liaison, and probation. All right. So we do that. We calls to parents. We have a communication protocol that teachers are to follow if students are failing class or if students are not attending. So we are trying to do all we can to just get kids. Crystal said it. If they're not there, we can't teach them. So we've got to have them at school. So, all right, federal report card has 4 categories: does not meet expectations, approaching expectations, meets expectations, and exceeds expectations. Oh, yeah.
So just look for the color coding.
Yeah. All right. Okay, red is Richmond. All right, so this is ELA. And as you can see, the yellow is approaches and the green is meets. And in 23-24, we were at 56.88 points. Again, these are points. And the meets category is 74.9. We have gone in 3 years from 44 points to 56 points. Obviously, though, our goal is we want to be in the exceeds column, but we got to get into that meets column first. So that's our goal. Our math academic achievement, again, the red columns are Richmond High School. We did move into the approaching expectations last year. And again, gradual growth that we are seeing from our math achievement. This is the SAT comparison data. The R&W, that's reading and writing in 2023. And what you want to see is in the meets columns, you want to see those increase, all right? So we went from 23 in reading and writing in SAT from 36 to 43%. And then in math, we went from 17 to 18. So those were the students that met the proficiency, correct? All right. And then in the approaching category, you want to see that. We want to move everybody to the left because in the not met columns, you want those to decrease. So as you can see, the number of students, the percentage of students that did not meet reading and writing in 2023 was at 57%, went down to 49% last year. And in math, again, we struggled. We went up 1 percentage point of students not meeting our math standards.
And this will be, if I'm not mistaken, that's rather consistent with the state. And as Dr. General, State Superintendent has alluded to, while we are seeing major gains in reading, mathematics still continue to be that Achilles heel for us across the state as well.
And again, I cannot commend our teachers enough. We have done, Celeste, the professional development that we have done the past 2 years, and I said this again today, has been the best that I have. I've been principal for almost 14 and a half years now, and I've been in the district for, I won't even tell you how long. It has been the best professional development that I have seen. Our teachers are in PLC, professional learning community groups, led by our department chairs. We have created leaders. We model, Celeste administrators, we model for the department chairs. It's kind of like the practice session before the game. And we model the PD. And then our department chairs go in and lead the PD. So we are now creating leaders. We just got through meeting with our department chairs Monday, and our department chairs are we're calling this, we did many projects, which included a lot of the the critical thinking, the collaboration, the skills that employers want to see. We did mini projects. Well, we're doing mini projects take 2. Our department chairs are going to be field testing. They're going to go out, they're going to do a mini project. They're going to come back. We're going to meet. What can we improve? They have a rubric, and then they are going to go introduce that to all of their teachers, who will then have 3 weeks to do and finish a
And
mini
again, Ms.
project.
Wolpe, I apologize, but that again is standard practice, standard best practice within thriving and competent professional learning communities, professional learning organizations. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say that of that professional development that you're referencing, I know NIET has alluded to the fact that RHS, by far, within our corporation, while we have had much growth, has grown the most when it comes to that instructional
Yeah,
framework. So,
we've taken the NIET,
major,
what do we call those?
clusters and that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we
major-
call them PLCs.
Yep.
Yeah, clusters PLC.
Yep.
But we have taken from the NIET a focus of what it is we want our teachers to know, understand, and be able to do to help our students be better critical thinkers. That's the big thing. Problem solvers, critical thinkers, and reading and writing. Bottom line, that's foundational. All right. If we can't do any of that, we're not going to be able to build upon that. So, graduation rate.
Okay.
Or do we do graduation rate? I don't think we
You
did.
talked a lot about
Okay.
at the very beginning.
Yeah. All right. So graduation rate, 4 points. We knock it out of the park. All right. We have been over 90% graduation rate for 10 plus years. And that's pretty darn good for in 2006 when Richmond was the dropout factory by Johns Hopkins. So, again, the highest number of points you can see, we are almost at the maximum number of points for graduation rate. Graduation is simply this. Graduation is, I have to get 40 credits, I have to pass the required courses, and I have to have a pathway. All right? That's how I graduate from high school. So, because of that, we want our students to get a diploma. So that's our focus. That again is how we build everything to that graduation point. So what do? We start at the end of every semester, we do a data report, and it has how many credits I got, what is my GPA, am I a special ed student, am I an EL student? We have all of what is my attendance rate, all kinds of data that we can sort, and we can see, all right, who are the kids that are not on track to graduate? Well, what I have been doing this semester, the counselors and I, with 10th graders, we are meeting with every 10th grader that is not on track to graduate. Their parent or guardian has to come, the counselor comes, and an administrator. And I tried to be at those meetings because everybody else is busy as well. And we make a plan. All right, you're not on track. We also are doing that with our seniors right now. And then Celeste and the counselors do junior on track to graduate meetings that's in August and September.
We do them throughout the year, but it's based upon like where they are, how many credits they have, how far they are behind. So if you're on the on target list, that means you're pretty far behind.
And so we have those meetings, we have those conversations. But one of the things that I want to point out about the data is, and again, the blue's 9, red's 10, the gold is 11th. And if you see in ninth grade, we know ninth grade is the critical grade. We have to set the stage there. They have to be successful in ninth grade, because the research and the data across the country will tell you If I am not successful in the 9th grade, my chances of graduating from high school just drop drastically. So for the past, and I've got 7 years worth of data, and actually I've got data from when I did 9th grade academy, but 9th grade has been kind of stuck at that 75 to 77-ish% are on track to graduate at the end of the 9th grade year. Well, last year it went up 10 points, 85%. Well, here's what we've done the last 2 years. In 21-22, we started out with a couple of classes, and we called them CIE, Career Information Exploration. It was basically a mentoring class where we took freshmen who were struggling and they passed their classes. So we said, hey, in 22-23, we said, well, we'll do a couple more. All right. And then in 23-24, as many teachers as we could get from the schedule to teach CIE, we did. And so we had a pretty large group, and 85%. And so so what we're doing is, I know that I'm getting off track. I know. So what this has resulted in is next year we are starting a freshman seminar class. Now we're not the only one. I again am in conversation with other principals. This is also going on in some other schools. And so we're starting a freshman seminar class, and it will be a transition to high school and help set the stage for their success. So we hope that 85% is going to go up to 90+% after next year, our 9th graders, the ones coming in. Strength of diploma, I already talked with you about that. There's 4 types of diplomas. One of the things with the federal accountability is the general diploma. They don't like the general diplomas. We don't like the general diplomas. 3 years ago, we were probably around 30-ish general diplomas. Last year, we had 12. All right. The other thing that I think you guys should be so proud of, our applied skills students at Richmond High School take a lot of our gen ed courses. We get them out. Thank you, Stephanie Baker, our assistant principal that is in charge of special ed, and the applied skills teachers. This year, we are going to have the first applied skills student that is going to graduate in 4 years with a general diploma. Who? And this kid is he has a story. Oh my gosh. So we did have a couple that got general diplomas last year, but they, applied skills students can stay in school until they're 22. And those 2 students, I believe, were either in their 5th or 6th year, but they did get a general diploma also. So when we say we educate everybody, and we try to lift all of them up to the best that they can be. And these are just examples of the types of diplomas. You can see the generals went down, and the academic honors, it just all fluctuates. If they're not getting a core 40, they may be getting an academic honors or a technical honors. So our diplomas, we want core 40 technical or academic. Those are the categories we want to be in until the new diploma comes, and then it's a whole new ball game.
That's right.
This is our, again, we shared this, our English language proficiency. Thank you again to the district for helping us with these students. Our action steps.
Sure.
All right, I'll let Celeste do this.
So Ray already mentioned that we are going to start doing the freshman seminar class. We've noticed and we've used the data to show that freshmen having that transition class really boosts their confidence, the way that they can get their credits. They actually understand what's going on in high school, that, you know, coming in and having to get credits and your grade actually means something is something huge. And so having someone mentor them and help them in a class, monitor their grades, they really need that. So the CIE is what originally was called. We are now going to call that freshman seminar. And then the SAT performance, we are getting better, and we are using professional development to help our teachers become better. One of the things that we focused on in NIET was questioning, and then a little bit of grading. So we do a jump start. We're doing it right now, and every single day, 1 period a day, every single student at Richmond High School gets 2 questions that are released from the SAT. And so one is English, one is math. And again, every single teacher, it's 100% buy-in. Everybody's doing it. Every single teacher gives one class, every single student is getting that. So, and then the degree of difficulty changes from day to day. But obviously the kids are getting to see what they look like. And we just want them to be able to see and practice those questions before they actually sit down next Wednesday to take that test. The SAT is very similar to the PSAT, like Ray mentioned, but it's just higher stakes because it is their graduation exam. And then as we move towards that new diploma, we are having meetings every single day or every single month throughout the year just to talk about what we need to do. And we're making changes because that new diploma is going to allow us to have some flexibility. And so maybe offering new classes, just giving opportunities to our students. Like Ray has mentioned, we've hired additional staff. We're offering additional courses. We have heritage courses. We have ELL teachers that are actually, they're going in, they're teaching vocabulary. It's just we're making great strides with those classes and with those students. And then continuing to work on our attendance because, like Mrs. Cooper said, like Ray has said, we have to get them there. If we can get them there, we can teach them, we can help them improve.
As you all alluded to, that jump starts and those videos and the opportunity for students to be exposed to what it is they're later will be assessed to. It reminds me of the times in which, as a school principal, and in Ms. Wolpe, I'm sure you've alluded to this, and I know all of our principals have told their own staffs that every teacher, regardless of your content area, is a reading teacher. And that's what that jumpstart piece reminds me most of, because what I hear you saying is in all classes, every day, all students.
We had a huge slide that we had at professional development, and we kind of put it in front of them. This belongs to all of us. Yeah. And you're, like you said, you're all reading, you're all problem solving, you are all writing. So we've got more and more of our teachers writing. You know what? Even if you're in math, explain in writing what you just did.
So having gone through ACT, SAT prep with my own students and realizing that it's more of knowing how it's a thinking test rather than a knowledge test. A college student obviously is motivated to study and train for that. If I'm looking for a career or something, how do you get those kids to buy in that the SAT is important? I guess
that's hard. Yeah, I mean, they make everybody take the SAT, which I don't agree with. But I don't agree with a lot of things that the DOE does.
I mean, I think you can sell it as a critical thinking tool. We're teaching you to process information is what you're doing.
Yes.
So in one of the videos,
but I'm just curious.
Yeah, right. In one of the videos, because we want all of our students to buy in, and one of the things that we said in the video, and it's been we did some research on it. Careers are looking for that. Part of being on the SAT, you said it's a critical thinking test. An employer wants you to be able to think on your feet, wants you to be able to solve problems. So it's not just about going to college. Also, when you go to get a career, when you're trying to get that job, they want to know, can you solve problems? Well, this is a way. This is a way to help you. So that is one of the ways that we try to sell it.
Yeah, we found this. It's called the NACE. The National Association of Colleges and Employers. And what it does is employers tell colleges, this is what we want, this is what we need, but this is what we're getting. And problem solving, critical thinking, collaboration, teamwork. So we've shared all of that with our teachers so they can say to those students, hey, here are the skills that you need. And we're doing that. From questioning, we've got to teach our students to think. And we just try to hammer that home. They have got to know how to think, how to problem solve, how to figure it out, and not us just pouring the answers in and then they regurgitate it on a test. We've got to teach our kids how to think. So that is one of the things that we have just, like I said, the last 2 years in professional development have been phenomenal with things that we've been doing. So being just relevant. Relevant is the word. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Kids want to know, well, when am I ever going to use that math thing? Well, let's show them. Let's do something that connects it to your learning. I was in a class today, math class. He's having them build their dream house because he wants them to learn about area. And if he said area once, he said, you got to figure out what the area of that living room is going to be to see if you can fit that swimming pool you want to put inside your house. And you're going to have to use this formula to figure this out. And so he's connecting it to, he said, I was laying carpet in my house and I had to figure out the area. I'm telling you, every kid in the class, and one in an honors class, it was just a regular geometry class. They were all just, building their dream house and using math to do it. I'm not sure some of them even realized that connection. So,
Well, ladies, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Okay. Appreciate you for minutes, chat. And as Mr. Hensley is coming up for our last 2 professional learning community presentations, I'll share, and this will be alluded to, that we also are working with our county counterparts at Somerville, Northeastern, Lincoln, and Hagerstown. Their high school principals, we as superintendents, we're all working collaboratively with the Chamber Association for Wayne County Foundation, and others to really capture the essence of what this new diploma route is calling for, and we're already proactively taking those steps. And so, without further ado, Mr. Stephen Hensley, the proud principal of HIP.
Hi everyone, I'm Stephen. I was told I had an hour tonight, so I went to work. Ray was told she had 10 minutes. So I may have 10 minutes slides. So I encourage you to strap in. Yes, I had to bring a clipboard. Just a reminder, I am the brand new principal of the Hibbert Building. It's a great job, best job at RCS. I love it. It's great work. So a reminder from what the building kind of does. It's a program building, so we have 3 programs. We have grades 3 through 8 there. We have the Logos program, which is grades 3 through 8. Applied Skills, which is 5 through 8. And then STEAM, which is 5 through 8. But about 310 kiddos right now, 308. We picked up some kiddos in Applied Skills. So we picked up a couple of numbers there. So that's a growing program. So it's been really cool. Learning experience every day. No day's the same. So it's really the joy of middle school. So I'm going to present some data to you. So if I'm going through, I'm slide 56, I checked. So if you can memorize all of these slides, I love that for you. But if you have questions afterwards, because I'm sure it's a lot of numbers from all buildings, reach out to me, say I'm Dr. Wright, and I can get those questions answered for you. And maybe a more holistic way, because this is just a kind of bird's eye view. If you have very specific questions, I can answer those, but maybe not all of them right now. Because you've been here for over an hour and a half. I love that. A reminder of what our building kind of does. There are 3 school goals that we've kind of really looked at. We looked at like growth and 2 of those goals and a performance goal. We've looked at growth for typical growth and a growth goal for stretch growth. So we know that our kiddos who are on grade level, typical growth is where we're going to strive. It's where what we want to do in addition to our stretch growth. But with those kiddos who are multiple grade levels below, 2-3 grade levels below, stretch growth will have to happen. So we have 80% of our kiddos are going to meet their typical growth, and then 50% of them are going to meet their stretch growth. And we talk about performance a lot as well. So you'll see some data in here that's about performance data. It's not just about growth data. It's also performance of where they actually rank. against their grade level peers, and even nationally when we look at iReady for the esoteric measure of the norm values. So for the performance goal we would like 80% of our kiddos on the iLearn to be at proficiency. So I will begin the conversation with some data. So again, we're 3 through 8. So I'm going to start with our Logos ELA data. That's the third and fourth graders. These are our littles. They are cues you can possibly imagine, and they are crushing in the classroom. So if you look for the performance, 100% of them are in that early on grade level, or they're on grade level or above grade level. So they are crushing it. They've been crushing it. They stay crushing it. But what's really impressive to me is if you look at the second chart at the bottom, you look at students with improved placement. That means that they've gone up in a placement. So from the light green to the green with the lines. So they've progressed from early on grade level to mid grade level. As you will find in the research, it is really, really hard to hit those growth points when they're performing on or above grade level. You're pushing that much harder. So the third and fourth graders are crushing it. And they're going to keep crushing it. That's for ELA. You look at math data, we see very much the same thing. They are crushing it for math data. And again, if you look at those students with improved placement from the beginning of year to the middle of year, our third and fourth graders are putting the work in, man. And their teachers deserve all the praise. They're incredible. So I'm really, really, really impressed with that. We see that all of our kiddos are in the green and green bolded. So really, really great work there. Now we'll jump to the middle school section of the building. And this is iReady. So we're looking at math by grade level. So you can see 3, 4 there because I kind of talked about it. But you can also see 5, 6, 7, 8 are there as well. That's the entire building. So not a programmatic breakdown. It's not disaggregated, but it is looking at 5, 6, 7, and 8. We'll see that you can see the placements by column. And if you look at the very left in students assessed, you're like, why do these kids not take this? How rostering works, our applied skill students who do not take this assessment are rostered into it. So those are the missing numbers. That's why they're not there. So this is math performance for the iReady for the middle of year diagnostic assessment. This is just looking at performance at the middle of year. Now, what I think is worth talking about is the second one, which is their growth data. So this is where they grew. So from the beginning of year to the middle of year. And if you look, that percent met that, well, it'll be 1, 2, 3 column, the percent met who met their typical growth. You can see those numbers. I want that to be about 50%. So we are not where I want to be. But again, as we get closer to the ceiling, it's really, really getting tougher to push towards those growth points. So it's encouraging to me to just keep pushing even further. Got to push harder, got to push harder, got to push harder. But what's really encouraging for me is the students with improved placement. So next to last column, you'll see that in grades 5 and 6, 35% of those kiddos improve their placement. 16% in grade 7, so we had a little dip there. So 7th grade has some work to do. 7th grade performs pretty well, so the growth is really different. It's tricky. But we're going to keep pushing there. And then our 8th graders, who are a lot of energy, they had 37%, so I'm really proud of them. I'm really proud of my 8th graders because they think high school is now. So they're ready. So this is a programmatic breakdown. You'll see I just went ahead and I broke it down by grade level and by program. So you see the top bars are usually the Logos program and the bottom bars are the STEAM program. You'll see where the numbers kind of are for performance. You'll see that in STEAM grade 5 and grade 6 perform a little bit lower. But again, STEAM's a gen ed program. It's built to look like Richmond. That's how we built the lottery. And the Logos is the high ability program. So I'm not concerned about the Logos program. They're really doing a great job. We have a couple kids, maybe one, who is in the yellow, but that yellow we're going to transition into the green. We'll get there. And then our 6th grade has been, if you see they're kind of by class and cohort, you can see there's one cohort in grade 5 that's a little lower than the other one, and about the same thing in grade 6. So in addition to the performance, this is their growth data. So I'll give you to take that in. And again, I didn't put the labels on because I was screenshotting and kind of pasting it together. The next last column is that percent of students with improved placement. So you'll see that like our students in grade 5 and 6 have all had 43, 39, 27. These are kids are moving up this scale. It's really great work. Again, for the third column, we want to see about 50% of those kiddos to meet their typical growth, and we're not there yet. Our 5th grade, we've noticed we've had some problems in STEAM and math. So that's an area where I have kind of addressed our teacher. And I'm like, hey, what can we do? And talking about how we transition kids from 4th grade into 5th grade and some interventions for that. And that's been helping because you'll see in our grade 6, we have 21%. Again, It's not where we want to be, but I put some professional development in place for our new math teacher. So that takes me to grade 7 and 8. Again, grade 7 is doing a really good job across the board, especially in logos. They're crushing it. And then in STEAM, we have a few kiddos we're working on. But again, that's a pretty high performing group. And I'll show you some data. This is just one version of data. This is iReady. There's another. I'm going to show you the iLearn, which is our state accountability test. And I think you will be interested to see kind of how the iReady and iLearn kind of stack up against each other because they are different. But again, 8th grade's down there below. Our 8th grade, keep in mind, Crystal did tell us that those are the kiddos that were in 3rd, 4th grade during COVID. So they are a lower performing group, but I will tell you, they're putting work in. They are putting work in, and you'll see the growth data to support that. So that's the growth data for them. We have 45% of our 8th graders in STEAM, that bottom one, did improve their placement. So almost half of them improved their placement, which is great. So let's talk a little bit about ELA performance. This is just from August to December. This is where we went. This is the middle of year. And that's the growth from middle of year. Again, our 8th grade didn't grow the way we wanted them to in ELA, but they did in math. So I was really happy with their math performance, but not ELA. So that took us, but what is encouraging is to see the students with improved placements, especially in grade 4, they're crushing it. They had 64% of them improved placement, and you saw they're all in the above grade level, and that's a Logos program. So they're doing exactly what we expect them to do. They're meeting every expectation, showing up and crushing it. Our 7th grader is not where we want it to be. That is where we focus a lot of our energy. Our 7th graders, they did not perform the way we wanted them to in growth, so we're going to work on that. So this is just the STEAM Academy. I want to make sure I pulled that one out. On the Logos program rosters, I can get that to you, but it was kind of tricky to pull. But this is STEAM. So you see for performance from August to December. This is where they are placing out as a program. That's by class too. So now we're going to transition into the island data. This is what got really, really interesting. We are in a checkpoint year. So it's brand new. It's a pilot year for checkpoints. We have 3 of them in addition to the iLearn, the large operational test at the very end of the year. So this is brand new. So our kiddos, I just pulled a couple. I pulled 5th grade and 7th grade just to show you what it might look like. I did not pull math because I showed you a lot of math data for iReady. So I want to look at iLearn. So if you look for checkpoint 1, it's looking at very specific standards. They're the columns on the far right. They're looking at those green and yellow. You'll see the state's performing at 32%. Logos is performing at 73%. And we're performing in STEAM at 43%. So we're outperforming the state in every regard. You look at checkpoint 2, same thing, and you have to see higher percentage of pass. State's 34, Logos is 82, and STEAM is 45%. So we're outperforming the state yet again, which is great. Again, 45% is 45%. Let's call a thing a thing, but we are still outperforming our state. Look at grade 7, ELA checkpoint 1, state's at 33, Logos at 65, STEAM's at 42. And if you look at checkpoint 2, looking at the specific standards, state's at 33, Logos is at 90, STEAM's at 48. So we are significantly performing, really positive numbers. Not perfect, but very much positive. That is just some academic data. There's a lot of things that go into the academic data that make it even possible. And the first thing is going to be attendance. The kids got to come to school. They got to be here. Strong attendance policy is required. Not just attendance policy, tardy policy. It's one thing to show up every day on time. It's one thing to show up at 10 o'clock every day because you're going to miss your first 2 classes. So something to consider. Now, the average attendance rate for us right now is 95.6%. So our kids are coming to school, which is great because if they don't, they know that I will call an attendance meeting and I will sit them down with their parents and I will talk about all the things. And it is a ton of work and time for my building and my secretary and my clerical to track down all the attendance and monitor it, but we are doing it with fidelity. It is just a huge amount of energy to get them to school. And I can't complain because our parents and families are great. They communicate with me, we respond. Like sometimes we forget, like if you go to the orthodontist, you forgot your doctor's note, it's kind of has to go back to the orthodontist and get one. And so a day goes by, then 2 days go by, then a week goes by, and then it's happened more than once and more than twice, and then the days stack up. So it's just a paperwork game too, just a reminding and encouraging to bring in documents. But attendance is great. There's a weekly breakdown for first semester. You'll see where the attendance rate was every single week. let's talk about some of the behavioral data. So these are referrals by days of the week and also by days of the month. Now you will see for the month one, January is a really hard month. And anybody guess why? I can tell you why. We had a lot of delays. We had a lot of sickness, not just with students and staff. The inconsistency with routine and inconsistency with structure creates a little bit of chaotic energy that we had to address in both January and February. Our data was significantly down the first semester of school, but January was a tough month. And that kind of spilled over into February. March has got back on track. Our referrals are down again. They're way down compared to last year. But again, January was hard because of the inconsistency with structured routine. And we had a lot of staff out, a lot of kids out. So we addressed that. Because you can only have 5 subs on one day and it gets a little tricky.
And you have third through 8th grade, is that?
I do. Yeah. Days of the week. Last year, Tuesday was our high referral day. Thursday. This year it's kind of spread out. So looks like Wednesdays are the really chill day for some reason. I was tired maybe. But on Thursdays, the kiddos seem to like just have a little more energy, and also that's where we have the referrals come in. Teachers are like, I've done this all week, and so we like to address that intervention wise on Wednesdays. The next slide you will see is about referrals by grade. If you correlate the performance next to the referral data, you will probably see a correlation. Our 6th graders do receive the highest number of referrals, and they are one of our tougher performing groups. So just keep that in your hat. Referrals by time of day, that's if you want it, it's there. It'll show you like I can pinpoint. I know where to be at the time of day. I know where not to be. If I'm going to be in a classroom, I know whose classroom to be in because it'll show me. And so I use that data to tell me every single day what walkthrough to do, what evaluation to do, be present here, there. It navigates my day. So Mr. French is putting a lot of this data in, and it's really, really helpful. And I think my last slide is about the triangle report. Laura showed you one of these too, but it shows you how many kiddos receive referrals. You have to have high flyers of the red, and you'll see that some of our, we have 0 to 1. That's middle school. Kids do some dumb things sometimes. They get called on it. That 0 to 1 doesn't really concern me. I want that yellow and red to go down. I need our high flyers to reduce. And it looks like by the data, we are. And that's really positive because we put a lot of support and a lot of energy and time into tier 2 behavior. So kids make mistakes. We have grace. It's teaching. It's the school. We love kids. So we do get those numbers occasionally for 0 to 1s. But our high flyers, we're getting them down. We're intervening in an aggressive kind of way. So I'm really proud of that.
Well, and it also shows, as you alluded to, the majority of our students, as Mrs. Brazel alluded to, the majority of our students in all of our schools are coming to school on a daily basis to do what it is they are supposed to do. They're behaving, they're applying themselves, and they're creating safe environments. And so,
go to school. If it's not safe, it's not safe for anybody.
That's right.
So,
but did you have Mr. Hensley? And for our last
record time.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Yeah.
You hit the mark.
Yeah.
You hit the mark. I did.
For our last professional learning community, and it's a community that, as we know, is our largest growing community and continues to expand, and that's the Department for Exceptional Education. And so Mrs. Loudermilk is here to present some data regarding special education.
Good evening. I'll be fast because most of mine is informational. Excuse me. I'm representing Mrs. Wolf and myself. She had another commitment tonight, and so I am. I originally had another commitment the original night we were supposed to present, and so I am the one here tonight. So the Department of Exceptional Ed has a lot of things under its umbrella. Obviously, special education. We cover 504s, multilingual learners, who Kristen Jones helps me with that a lot. And then we have McKinney-Vento, and we have our high ability program, which Mr. Hensley just gave some information on. So you can see the trend data here on our identification, our students who are eligible for IEPs. This does include students who are speech and language only. So that's about 500-ish who have speech on their as either their primary or secondary disability. So the number over here on the left-hand side, it does say that we have 1,355 kids with IEPs. That fluctuates. It's somewhere between 1,300 and 1,400 on any given day. So it's a big chunk. It's 28% of our population. Over a quarter of our kids are special services. So that is higher than the state average, but it's not, when we think about learning loss, when we think about those kids that have these gaps that are ever increasing, then we see those gaps, and there are areas of strength and weakness, and we qualify them. Kids with Section 504 plans. So 504 plans are students who have a medical need or a medical disability that does not necessitate goals or services, but it does necessitate accommodations. So we hold pretty steady with those. I think the high school has around 55 of those, and then they're spread out throughout the district. So we have 119 kids being served through 504 plans right now. English learners, we are up just a tiny bit. We have about 360 kids within the district who have an ILP. And like I said, Kristen Jones is my lifesaver because I don't understand multilingual learner, like the WIDA program. I'm learning all of that. So she saves my life. And Cindy came to me the other day with a question and I said, Kristen said it, it's real. So it's a really cool population to work for or work with. Our interpreters are wonderful people. Our EL teachers are amazing. So it's a really positive community to be around. And then our McKinney-Vento, these are up. We know that Richmond has some economic disadvantages, some real serious things going on. So our 57 kids, that's right now. And our McKinney-Vento, those policies help with making sure kids can still access their homeschools. They're still getting everything that they need. They can access sports, extracurriculars, music programs, everything. Transportation is a big one. That's the one that we struggle with the most. And then that 57 students, that includes kids who are doubled up. So they're sleeping on a couch at a friend's, cousin's house or whoever. So that's not necessarily living in a car, living in a shelter. Those are kids who just don't have permanent housing.
And no change in definition. So, I mean, the number is, it's significantly more. There's been no criteria change or anything.
No, no criteria change. It's just we've had a couple of house fires. We've had some kids identified as being that DCS will find and say you need to be in the district, and then we recognize that they are homeless and that's why they haven't been in school. And then here's our high ability numbers. We have not finished kindergarten identification. That's happening right now. We are about to finish our second grade and fifth grade identification. I've got a really nice group of second graders we're going to identify. Larger numbers than last year. I think that's because second grade last year was an online test, and we went back to paper pencil this year, and we found a few more kids, so that's really positive. We have 8 kids from out of district wanting to test, so that's pretty good.
And that's all the COGAT test.
That's the COGAT test. Yep.
And that's the only.
So we have the identification flow chart. So kids who are identified using COGAT, they have to be at the 96th percentile or higher to get an automatic label. And then if they are at the 85th in another area, that's when they're invited to logos. But we also look at our iReady scores. We look at the rating scales that teachers can fill out to boost some of their scores. And then there are times when we look at the whole picture of the kid. Are they at a do they have a writing sample? Do they have a really strong teacher recommendation? Are they just not great test takers? So we look at all of those things to qualify them.
Good.
But we do have about 375 kids. Well, we do have 375 kids in our district right now, not counting our kindergartners. So we're doing a pretty good job. That's a pretty significant number of our kids who qualify. And this is just information about Teach Town. So Teach Town is our new curriculum. This is our second year with them for applied skills. So you can see that we have pre-test, post-test information on here. It's being most used at our elementaries and our high school. Middle school, we have given them the option to use it. I think next year we're going to really do a push for middle school. We purchased licenses, so we disseminated those to the teachers who really wanted them first and teachers who were less experienced. So we have seen a big jump. So our pre-test is 23% and our post-test average is 93%. So that's a pretty significant indication that this is good software and this is a good program. And we just met with them last week to talk about pre-K, possibly using it for pre-K. Questions about exceptional ed?
That's my question. I know we identify kindergartners, we test them, and I also know within the elementary schools, you all work with kiddos that are identified to potentially have different types of curriculum or kind of look at a higher level. But I guess my question is, can we or do we not have the population to really have the Logos program, have those kiddos put into logos
earlier.
Mm-hmm. And then, yes, that's my question. I just don't know, like, are we doing them a disservice by sort of keeping them and giving them some special education services if they're identified as high ability?
Mm-hmm.
Or do we just not have the bandwidth or space, or is it?
So generally, pulling them out for logos is controversial because we are taking the top, and
Mm-hmm.
principals don't like that. I understand. But it's similar to special education. They have a specialized need. And so it's not like you would take your antibiotic once a week for something that's happening every day. So it's very much, you need to have a rich curriculum every day, all day, if you are identified in one area or both. And that is the perk of Logos. We are one of only 3, I think, pull-out programs in the state. And we demonstrate that program is successful through our Lilly Scholars, through our academic excellence, through our kids who receive scholarships. And so whether you support the program or whether you think the program should be changed, the kids demonstrate that they're getting what they need. I have a kid in program, so I have a dog in the fight. I think that we could serve one too. I don't see too many negatives, but I would like to hear from principals and hear from other districts that do pull out. Because I know Sidner and Indianapolis, they are K5, K6?
I believe so.
Or 1-6, I'm not sure, but they do go down lower than we do, and I think the interest is there and the numbers are there. Because we identify a similar number in every grade level. It's usually between 15 and 25 per grade level.
Okay. Yeah. So my second kind of follow up to that is, which kind of could be a question, Mr. Hansley too, is I think we've talked about STEAM going down to 3rd and sort of mirroring up against logos in STEAM. Just right, I have a kiddo. He was in STEAM and now he's in logos, and I feel like those 2 programs really, the kiddos benefit from each other.
Mm-hmm.
So again, is that space?
And I would say that the students, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Students at Logos are receiving lots of science and lots of social studies, and that is not necessarily what the time is allocated for in the other elementary schools as much. No shade. I'm just saying that
we're getting more now through Wit and Wisdom, since the knowledge building part.
Fantastic. So I think that the science and social studies and the math that is happening in Logos could be mirrored in STEAM. That's really where I was going with that.
Yeah. And just like to take it down to 3rd grade too.
If the question is there physical facility space to do that? That's a question for a whole different day.
Right.
But I think if there's interest in exploring going down to 3rd grade, absolutely. But I think the board has to understand that there are trade-offs. There are ripple effects. There's staffing concerns. There's a lot of things we think through. I'm not saying it's a great idea. I would love it. I got a dog in the fight. I came with it. I love it. I'll support you. But I want to just be honest up front and say, here are the things we should consider as a district and not just selfishly what I want. Because love that. Sounds great. Because it would be a good idea. I think it's really power in it. But if that's a conversation, I would support it. But I don't want to say anything too publicly tonight. But it would be very, very cool to explore that idea.
Yeah, I just didn't know if it, if it was even an option based on the type of program. But I know we talk about the project-based learning.
Sure, it could all be
I really love it for my kiddos. If we talk about critical thinking, to me that is,
and student-less learning.
It's so beneficial to how STEAM and logos are structured with.
And project-based learning is not for everybody.
It's not, but
it can be.
It's beneficial to go through.
Absolutely, it's a choice.
Yeah, and one caveat to identification between K and 1 is that kindergartners who come from a language-rich household and households where parents talk to their kids and they have experiences, they're going to qualify a lot more easily in kindergarten. And then there may be a gap between K and 1. And so if we did that, we might look at our identification procedures to determine if that's a good year to test or if we would want to put it off to 1.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, having kids gone through the system, I think the one benefit that I don't know how you replicate at the high school is the time management piece. And I think that translates to college success. The correlation has to be super tight because I think how they manage time in those Logos projects groups, that you don't have another experience like that. And that's super valuable when you go to the next level.
One of my previous mentors said, show me your schedule, I'll show you how you value time. I'll show you what you care about. So I think how we schedule the building, how the day looks can be.
It's how the kids, it's how they process. I have this due and this due and this due and this due. And then they formulate their own internal.
And I don't know if Mr. Inslee feels this way, but I feel that when I was the principal, that Logos was in charge of Logos, and I was just there to make sure things happened. And so that translates to kids feeling autonomous and feeling like they can drive their own learning.
Mm-hmm. So regulated learners. Mm-hmm.
That balance.
I have a question just about the McKinney-Vento. You mentioned that transportation continues to be a trouble or a challenge. I guess. Can you explain a little bit more?
Yeah, of course. So we have a family right now who is living over in the Rose Hamilton district, and so we are sending a bus over to them, and they may or may not get on the bus. Okay. And so that's a resource that we are providing, but maybe not in the best interest of the students. So we're exploring whether or not that, or students, whether or not that is in their best interest, basically. Should they live, they could see Rose Hamilton. So maybe we suggest, some alternatives, or we have a family who had a tragedy in their family, in their home, so in house fire, and so they're living in Ohio, and so we have a staff member who lives in Ohio who's transporting those kids to school every day. Vegas was taking some kids home. It's just, we have to figure it out. And so I've gone to some webinars recently. I mean, we can put them in taxis, we can put them in Ubers, we can do all that stuff, but you have to make sure that people are background checked. We're not a city bus system that's kid friendly. So those are just challenges that the bus garage has been very willing to help with, but just challenging.
Yeah. No, thank you I just want to make sure we were doing everything we can.
Oh,
sounds like we are in our staff. So
and Bridget does a great job of connecting us with resources and making sure that families have what they need, and that I'm aware if there's a special circumstance.
Thank you.
Speaking of Bridget Hazelbaker, such a great
See how
segue
smooth that was?
into the final slide of our presentation. Ms. Bridget Hazelbaker, Director.
So I tried to put on my other glasses so I could see this as well. But yeah, overall attendance is going really well. So again, this is my first year as the Director of Student Support and Communications. So I am overseeing the attendance liaisons, Centerstone, Meridian, all of those things. But part of the attendance, I am meeting monthly with our attendance liaisons in all of our buildings. We actually have a meeting tomorrow morning. And we go over some of those best practices. What are some things you're stuck on? The letters have been nonstop. You may remember K through 6 is that new attendance law as far as those A meetings, like Mrs. Wolpe had said. So those attendance intervention meetings are really making a difference with our students. So when we have a meeting with a parent, talking to them, if my child misses the bus, who is a backup that I have so my child can still get to school the next day, for that afternoon. If my child has a dentist appointment in the morning, they come back to school in the after that appointment. Keeping those sort of that communication, making an agreement, even just talking with that parent, what is a good time for that child to be in bed? What time do they need to be at the bus stop? Things like that. So again, it's just trying to reinforce some of that. So again, the 6.8% increase from last year, district-wide attendance is really quite amazing. And again, this is just first semester. I did not go all the way up till current semester, current month right now. But you can see every one of our schools is improving. So I'm very, very pleased with that. And it's a lot of paperwork and a lot of communication. Communities and schools is helping us as well with those pieces. Centerstone, Meridian, just all of it. Vegas and Matt Fisher, Dustin Cushing, maybe another helpful person for us also with attendance at Richmond High School. So I can't thank them enough. Attendance has just been a great piece.
Again, all those wraparound services that you've been putting in place and all the intentionality that collectively everyone has.
Well, we're meeting monthly with the principals as a support team. So getting that attendance liaison in the meeting with a counselor, but we're looking at who are those kids that have high office referrals, high attendance, who have maybe some mobility that are moving between schools to schools. So again, just trying to see what kind of support services, wraparound services we have for those kiddos, and getting them set up.
I have a quick question about attendance, which I guess I've never thought into it, is
does it matter if it's excused or unexcused that gets put into this number?
Yeah. So DOE is looking at an absent as an absent student is not at school.
And that's per class, right? Because we track it.
We're doing, if a student misses one day because they went to the dentist, maybe, same as being out. We give parents, as a corporation, they get 9 excused absences to be out of the building, and then we start making those unexcused absences, or they need to bring a doctor's note. So we're just really, really trying to watch those kids who are habitual truants to have more than 10 unexcused absences already, and the importance to parents to call the school, let us know where your child is. Just we want kids in school. So
yeah, I was looking at I think it was, I don't know if it was the RHS data, just about like I'm mom of 4 kids, they all get sick throughout the week.
Right.
I forget to, luckily parents sends out the notice so we can just,
yes.
But there's a lot of times I'm like, oh, I totally forgot to send
Well,
it.
and
then you
we're
think
just
about
looking at
10 people, that could be 1%.
Well, and Chamber of Commerce is really helping us too with attendance. I mean, the seniors perfect attendance. They want it more, and a lot of different incentives as well. So we're looking at some community partners, business partners, to see what we can do to help strengthen that maybe incentive. Maybe a family could have an incentive to help, and not just perfect attendance, improved attendance. Yeah. So that's what we're trying to look at to help these kids. Yeah.
Thank you, Mrs. Baker. Again, anecdotally, we all have had conversation and have acknowledged the overall improvement throughout Richmond Community Schools, however, of which you've heard this evening. Hopefully, that feeling has been re-cemented with data that proves that that feeling is real. And so, if you all don't mind, as a Board of Education, if we can give a round of applause to our amazing educators who remained attentive. The laborious task of putting such data together in slides, be remiss not to. In conclusion, we truly appreciate your attentiveness, and most importantly, we are grateful for your unwavering support as a Board of Trustees. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, our board continues to prove that we have the ability to address complex issues head on and work together to place our students on pathways of learning to a future of limitless possibilities. And so again, I thank you, I appreciate you, and we will continue to fight with you. Yes, thank you all.
Yeah, so I was gonna say too, I don't know if anyone, I think Erica had signed up for public commentary, but I saw her, she didn't have any. So did we don't have anyone else signed up for it? Okay.
I know, just go back quick because I know that people can go, but I wanted to take a minute just to acknowledge and thank the teachers, the staff, the coaches, department chairs, all of the, teachers who are making a difference, and just acknowledge for a minute the challenges that teachers face, that the kids come to school without food, it's hard to learn, your parents had a fight in the morning, or you're sleeping on a couch, or all of those things create challenges for our teachers. So I appreciate them working through those and showing us this data. And I'm excited about the growth. I wanted to also acknowledge my own personal philosophy that testing gives a picture, but not the entire picture of the student. And that's important for me to say out loud, that we're measuring academics, which we need to, and is important. But there's a lot of things that aren't measured that are really important, like being kind and helping other people, problem solving, whether you're artistic, like there's things that aren't measured. And that's important to acknowledge for me personally. But also that, having worked with kindergartners and testing at Vail the last several years, that I worked with kindergartners who come in and they're trying to learn letters and they don't know any letters. And I come back in 6 weeks and they still don't know any letters, but they're at least saying names of letters, so they still have 0 and they have shown no growth, but they have grown and they are growing. And that isn't visible here as well. So those were just the things I wanted to make sure and acknowledge.
Well, I'll just promise to close with this. I was at Bell Elementary School reading to the same kindergarten class I read to first semester. And this semester, the night and day difference, not only from a behavioral standpoint, but just also, as you referenced, from an intellectual standpoint. It's remarkable, the growth, and most importantly, as I continue to say, the most important people in our classroom are our teachers. and they continue to knock it out of the park, as was said by our Elephant leadership team, the instructional coaches, and everyone. So again, thank you all so much.
Other
No, I just also wanted to say, I really do just appreciate all that you guys do. I mean, I know some of us, Kristen and I, former educators, we know it is hard. Day in, day out, all of the grit and grime that you deal with, it is hard. And so just to be able to celebrate that with you tonight, yes, we have work to do still, and we acknowledge that. That's who we are as a district. We will own that. But we want to just say high five and good job for the progress that we have seen. So please feel applauded. I know we've physically applauded you several times, but please know that I personally feel like you guys are doing a great job. So to borrow your Stephen, crushing it. I started counting. I was like, I'm just going to say crushing it.
And thank you, Mr. Owens here, Lincoln, and Mr. Winter, along with Mr. Stephen Jones. We appreciate you all sitting.
Thank you all. Meeting adjourned.